This is Kurt Beckett, Chair of the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, calling at 9:01 a.m. to order our special council meeting for the Carriger Solar Project. And Ms. Grantham, would you call the roll, please?
Of course. Department of Commerce. Department of Ecology.
Blake Nelson, present.
Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Nate Pamplin, present.
Department of Natural Resources.
Jennifer Ryan, present.
Facilities and Transportation Commission.
Stacy Brewster, present.
For Local Government and Optional State Agency for Carriger Solar, Matt Childs.
Matt Childs, present.
Assistant Attorney General John Thompson.
Present.
For Council Staff, Sonia Bumpus. Amy Hafkemeyer. Present. John Green.
Present.
And Joanne Snarsky.
Present.
Do we have anyone here for the Council for the Environment?
Sarah Reineveld is present.
Thank you, Chair. There is a quorum.
Thank you very much. I will share for the benefit of the group that my computer has had a cold restart for the second time in real time. So I'll do my best to play along here with Ms. Grantham's assistance. So as I believe we all know, we are here today to consider the revised draft site certification agreement for the Carriger Solar Project, as well as resolution 360. So with that, we are going to begin with the staff presentation. We'd be happy to take comments and questions from the council on that presentation first. And then if it's the will of the council, we'll proceed to consider the action on both those documents that I have mentioned. So with that, I believe Amy Hafkemeyer will lead the staff briefing this morning.
Thank you, Chair Beckett. And good morning, Council. Appreciate everybody joining us here at 9 a.m. So today we are here to talk about the activity that's been going on for the Carriger Solar Project. And I would like to hand this presentation over to Ms. Snarsky.
Thank you, Amy. Let's go ahead and forward to the next slide. Well, given that we have, I'm sorry, I should say this is Joanne Snarsky, the siting specialist for Carriger Solar. Just a quick reminder for a couple of our new council members that we're reviewing the Carriger Solar Project, which is 160 megawatt solar voltaic electric generating facility in Klickitat County. It also has an adjoining 63 megawatt battery storage. The acreage of the site on private land is approximately 2,108 acres, but only 1,326 of those will include the project components. So this map shows you the general location within Washington. It also narrows down into the county and gives you a little further detail on the bottom lower left of how it looks within that area. Go ahead to the next slide. So the current status, and to give a little bit of background, on June 25th, 2025, the FSEC Council voted to approve a recommendation to the governor for the facility. After the governor's consideration, he remanded that back to FSEC on August 22nd. At that point, he indicated what he wanted us to take further action on, and I'll go into detail on that next. But the next action that was taken after the remand was for Chair Beckett to send a letter to the Yakima Nation Council Chairman, and that was sent on August 26th, asking for their response to a few of the items we'll go over. They then responded in September, on September 25th, to the FSEC Council. At that point, FSEC reviewed the information they provided and developed draft resolution 360 and revised the site certification agreement on October 3rd. We then put that out to public comment on October 6th through the 19th. And it is those two items that are here to evaluate for your consideration. Next slide, please. So in the governor's remand, he directed Chair Beck to allow the Yakima Nation the opportunity to provide input on Chair Beckett's confidential summary memo of the consultation he and staff held with the tribe on June 4th, 2025. The other direction, the other direction was to give the Yakima Nation the opportunity to provide additional input on 5 mitigation measures that were identified in our mitigated determination of non-significance. Those included the setbacks from solar panels and the fencing to the road, and I'll show more detail on what those mitigation measures look like. But it also includes some measures such as traffic control plans allowed for their review, as well as site restoration, evaluation of those plans. Next slide, please. So in the Yakima Nation's response, they expressed 2 primary concerns, and they also provided some suggestions that they would like to see. But I'll go over the concerns that they provided. In the Chair Beckett's consultation memo, they expressed that the memo did not capture the depth of their concerns regarding TCPs. They also prefer an adjudicative process, and without an adjudicative process, FSEC Council cannot interpret fully, and their interpretation is flawed and inaccurate without that process. That last point is not part of the summary memo. It was one other major area that they disagreed with. And essentially they disagreed with FSEC's finding of the decision for the mitigated determination of non-significance. Next slide, please. Their suggestions to remedy that in this case would be, first, they preferred to deny the approval for placement of solar panels in the northern portion of the project. And in this portion, they would like to have seen conservation leases on those parcels be entered into. Next, if that could not be done, they would prefer the council withdraw the mitigated determination of non-significance and the draft recommendation and perform a full environmental impact statement and an adjudication process. Next slide, please. So after that response, we had redrafted or we evaluated that information, but we were also required under the OPMA to provide public comments on the 2 documents that we drafted from that response. In that public comment that recently closed, we received 12 comments. 6 of the comments reflected environmental impacts or process concerns by FSEC. The environmental impacts that were expressed were with regards to land use, visual aesthetics, wildfire, wildlife, and cultural resources. The FSEC process concerns included review and approval of our process, the timing of our meetings, and the length of the comment period. However, no comments provided new information or justified changes to the draft resolution that was up for comment. Next slide, please. So with regards to the mitigation that the governor requested that we provide the Yakima Nation with additional time to review. Once we received their information back, we really had to review and reflect on what actions we had taken through our mitigated determination and non-significance that was completed here on April 7th in 2025. We reviewed what actions we took and they addressed the traditional and cultural properties that the Yakima Nation have concerns with. What we did was to include substantial setbacks established to the TCPs and the transportation routes in that area. We also provided supplemental fencing layout and design to support wildlife movement that was consistent with the Department of Fish and Wildlife's input and requests. We also added some enhanced visual screening to incorporate natural features. That was done in the revised MDNS later in the process. We also provided the Yakima Nation, I believe, per their request, to review the site restoration plans. There's two plans that they will participate in, the initial plan as well as the final plan for decommissioning. And finally, the developer also is going to provide financial support to the Yakima Nation for supplemental studies on TCPs in the project area. So with regards to the mitigation that we requested, next slide, please. We have a few graphics and simulations that I think will be helpful to understand the actions that FSEC has included in our determination. So this slide shows the increased setbacks from State Route 142, which is along the southern portion of the project. That small red dot on the bottom of the right-hand graphic shows you where the simulate or graphic is showing. The original setback is on the left. The revised layout is on the right, demonstrating an additional setback of the fencing in that area. Next slide, please. And this is the simulation that was provided to us by the developer through our discussions and requests from them. It shows the existing condition on the left, the original setback on the top right, and then the increased setbacks and how that will look on the lower right. Again, that's from State Route 142. Next slide, please. So these are the increased setbacks along Knight Road. Again, you can see the area that this is depicting in the right-hand graphic where the red dot is. It's demonstrating that there are additional setbacks that were provided, and it equates to about 50 to 70 feet along that road. Next slide, please. Again, these are the actual simulations of that along Knight Road, from the existing to the original setbacks, and then the increased setbacks on the lower right. Just trying to provide enough time to let folks kind of take that in, absorb it. But next slide, please. So this graphic shows the increased setbacks that we added from the DNR parcel, which were particular to the issues that the Yakima had expressed their concerns from viewing along or on the DNR parcel, which is this particular parcel. So what you're looking at, that blue shaded area, is the actual DNR parcel itself. The upper portion is showing the solar panel of the original layout, and then the bottom portion is showing the increased setbacks shown from that area. And the next slide shows this, what that simulation would look like. From the existing condition, again, to the original in the upper right, and the increased setback in the lower right. The next slide actually shows a depiction of from the DNR parcel, really from the center. I think you can see again that red dot on the lower left graphic side is demonstrating where this simulation was captured from. And I think this is shows a lot more of the setting of the area along with the existing infrastructure. In that case, the BPA line, transmission lines up there along that area. And of course, this section in the north sits right adjacent and beneath that transmission line. So you see the original setbacks that are depicted, and again, the revised with the setbacks we added into that. Next slide, please. So FSEC's recommendation, a staff recommendation to the council is that FSEC's determination of non-significance is based on effective mitigation identified in the draft site certification agreement. It reduces impacts to the traditional and cultural properties, visual aesthetics, the sense of place, the access, the quality of experience, and traditional hunting practices to moderate or below magnitude. We do not recommend any additional mitigation. And, you know, this is per the governor's request. Staff provided the supplemental opportunity for the Yakima Nation to provide input on that mitigation. Upon our review of the information they provided, the Yakima Nation that is, and our re-review of our SEPA analysis we performed, we determined our analysis supports that impacts are reduced to non-significance. Next slide, please. So with that, all of this information is articulated in the draft resolution that has been available for your review as well as the public. What we are proposing is to add new language to the revised or amended site certification agreement, and we're only making one suggested change, and that is to Article 7, subparagraph H, and it's under the project operation. Next slide, please. And this language was done at the request of ensuring that we were providing clear request and requirement by the developer to provide funding to the Confederated Tribes of the Yakima Nation for grant funds to do further analysis on traditional and cultural properties in the vicinity of the Carriger Energy Project. That funding amount is for $100,000, and the request will be for them to receive that money once the facility becomes commercially operational. So next slide. That concludes my presentation, and this is what we would be requesting of the council today, providing this draft motion. But we can have questions or discussion as needed.
Thank you, Ms. Snarsky. So as I stated at the outset, let's go ahead and take questions or comments from the council on the staff presentation before we move to entertain any actions. My computer is back and running, so feel free to raise your hand or speak up. And Ms. Grantham and I will call on you. Councilman Pamplin.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the presentation, Ms. Narsky. Very clear, and I'm tracking. We've gone through all the materials and appreciated the overview this morning. I just wanted to explore a little bit further of Yakima Nation's request of not permitting solar panels in the northern portion of the project area. I believe that's also coupled with the suggestion of turning those parcels and requiring that the project proponent secure conservation easements on those. I don't know if we could compel. I know we can't compel landowners to enter into conservation easements along the lines of suggestion, but I imagine it is within scope to not permit siting the solar array in that northern area. Now, we've already gone through the environmental analysis and shown that we think that with the revised mitigated determination of non-significance, that's resolved. But just for the sake of kind of understanding the nature of the request, could you describe what that would entail and what would that mean to the overall power generating capacity of the project, please?
I think I'm going to look for a little help on this.
Yeah, I can probably answer that. This is Sean Green, SEPA specialist for FSEC. We've had discussions with the applicant for this project about what imposing the Yakima Nation's recommendations would look like in terms of the viability of their project and the power generation. They've suggested that it's about a reduction by half of the project's power generation, and their contention is that their project could not survive even a third reduction. So imposing a mitigation measure that would require removing all proposed panels from the northern portion of the project area would make the project non-viable.
Great. Ms. Narsky, Mr. Green, thanks for that response.
Were there other comments or questions from the council?
This is Andrew Grantham. I just want to make sure that we're able to hear Councilmember Matt Childs if he is online, because I know sometimes we accidentally mute his phone number.
Councilman Childs, can you just confirm we can hear your voice?
Oh, I see his hand is raised. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you guys just fine, thank you. I'm on the computer this time and not just on the phone, and thank you for double checking. I appreciate that.
Thanks for your participation throughout this process, including today. I believe Councilwoman Brewster has a question, and Mr. Childs, if you also had one, let me come back to you after Ms. Brewster goes.
Thanks. I have a question about the setbacks that were described around the DNR portion. In the MDNS and the site certification, there is mention of the vegetative and earthen berms for screening. Seeing the picture, can you just describe, would those structures be outside of the fencing area or within, just to get an idea of what sort of screening that would allow? Thanks.
Yes. So the final design of that natural screening element is still in the works between FSEC, the applicant, and WDFW. But it would involve a combination of screening vegetation, rocks, earthen berms, and it would be placed outside of the fence line of the project area, in between that fence line and the northern boundary of the DNR parcel. So, and though that that natural screening is not reflected in those visual simulations, that's something that would be additive to the setbacks.
Thank you.
Councilman Childs, let me just double check again with you in case there's a comment or question you wish to make.
No, actually, I did not, except, I believe it's a little ironic that they want to disturb nature to put in natural screenings. I would think leaving it as it is in its fairly natural area would be best, but, if everyone's happy with the screenings, I'm not gonna complain about them.
Appreciate that. And certainly it sounds like there is some adaptivity that'll happen as those are ultimately placed and deployed. Councilman Ryan.
Thank you, Chair Beckett. Just wondering about, in reviewing the draft resolution, in response to the Yakima Nation's identified concerns, FSEC has committed to mitigation, including the incorporation of the Yakima Nation into the review of all site restoration plans to ensure that the project area is fully restored following construction and decommissioning. Taking that and then reviewing the MDNS, it looks like there was some language previously under historic and cultural resources that would have, I think, broadened the tribe's engagement in those mitigation measures over time. Is staff able to expand on, why the existing language is in place, or what the conversation was like around that specific item in the MDNS?
And before staff answers, Councilor Ryan, can you clarify which page you're on in the resolution, just so the other council members are following along your citation?
Sure thing. Yeah, that was at the top of page 5, the end of page 4, leading into the top of page 5.
Great. Thank you. And if staff would provide a response.
Yeah, so I know the language that you're referencing. There was some language in the initial MDNS, the mitigated determination non-significance, that included things like providing the tribe or affected tribes the opportunity to identify cultural no-go zones and things like that. That language was not intended to be included in the final version of the MDNS. It was deemed not really workable as mitigation because it was too open-ended. The discussions that Chair Beckett and staff had with the Yakima Nation included that further commitment to incorporate the Yakima Nation's review into the initial site restoration plan and the detailed site restoration plans. And the Yakima Nation at the time was expressed an interest in being included in both of those and ensuring that that's a route where they can effectively engage with FSEC and the applicant to ensure that site conditions are returned to a pre-project state following the completion of the project. So the language that you're specifically discussing was draft language that wasn't intended to be included in the MDNS. It was removed in the first revised MDNS.
Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the question. Are there other questions or comments from council? Well, I'll make a quick comment while just pausing in case there's any other thoughts that come to mind from the council members, or we'll soon move on to entertaining actions here. So one, thank you for all the presentations and discussion. It's certainly been important for all of us. Certainly I'll speak for myself to review the full record, which I believe I have, including the public comments. And the key thing that I was also reflecting on in trying to respect the requests of the Yakima Nation in particular, as well as obviously be responsive to our governor, that as noted in the resolution on page 5, ultimately, it is the policy of the state of Washington to recognize the pressing need for increased energy facilities and to ensure through available and reasonable methods that the location and operation of all energy facilities will produce minimal adverse effects on the environment, ecology of the land, its wildlife, and the ecology of state waters and their aquatic life. And I think ultimately this is one of the core kind of mission challenges for FSEC to ultimately achieve as much balance as we can across that statement. But ultimately, we do operate within the bounds of the Washington state law, and that it does include through available and reasonable methods. And so appreciate the added questions there, including from Council Pamplin in this regard, and just wanted you to know that was part of my reflection on how it would seem we should be approaching this issue. So with that, are there other comments or questions? Council Ryan.
Thank you, Chair Beckett. Do we have any sort of feedback or understanding of the Yakima Nation's perspective on the changed language or the updated SCA?
I don't know if staff want to answer first. I can.
Well, I think this is Joanne. I think it's fair to say that we have had no further contact since their September 25th letter to us. I think, that information regarding the grant funding, that was actually incorporated into other parts. So I think we're just pulling that out into the SCA to make it more prominent. I think that was the thought process there, but I think they continue to be agreeable to accepting that offer.
If I could jump in, this is Ms. Hoffmeyer. The grant funding is something that was agreed to and understood by, FSEC, the developer, and the Yakima Nation prior to the governor's response back, and all parties were agreeable to that. So this edit is, as Ms. Snarsky mentioned, just to make it more explicit and make more transparent that it is a requirement that we will be documenting completion of things like that. So I hope that answers your question.
And if I may, let me add a word to that, Councilman Ryan, and appreciate your question for sure. In plain speak, I think the nation, the Yakima Nation, continues to be opposed to this project. And so I don't believe that at the end of the day that despite, I think, mutual efforts and good efforts to try and hear one another, that has really changed that position fundamentally. I think clearly, as I reflect on this process and my own direct participation in it, clearly there are procedural issues that I would encourage all of us to find a means to, have a further dialogue on what some of those procedural matters look like, what options we may have to better meet the Yakima Nation's request, knowing that adjudication and its ability to engage the full council is very important to them. In this case, having received the recommendation of the SEPA official for mitigated determination of non-significance, and as a result, to not use adjudication, which certainly has its place. I personally have some questions about the formality of adjudication after the formality of a thorough environmental review process, but I certainly respect the Yakima Nation's worldview and support for, essentially, I interpreted it as almost exclusive use of the adjudication path in FSEC processes. So having acknowledged that, I believe for the reasons documented in the record, and I think further reflected in the governor's response to us, that ultimately that basis of that recommendation has not been a further question around that, at least on the state side of that picture. So certainly have great respect for the Yakima Nation, and I hope that we can find a means to work on some of those important process issues, knowing that ultimately these are also about impacts and very deeply held beliefs and values by the Yakima Nation, and I certainly want to recognize that and will do my best to respect and support those outcomes, despite probably what will still be dissatisfaction potentially with the council, depending where you want to take this today. So obviously, I'm on the record on having supported the project before, and don't see really a reason to change that at this stage. But with that, if there are other comments or questions, let's hear those, and then let's move to the next portion of the meeting. Councilman Childs.
Thank you, Chair Beckett. I wanted to thank the council and staff for their work on addressing the Yakima's concerns. I think that we have done a good job above and beyond the requirements of the treaty with the Yakimas on the ceded lands, and I think I'm comfortable with the mitigations that are proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Childs. Last call for comments or questions. Okay, hearing none, if it's the will of the council, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve council resolution number 360 and the draft site certification agreement as amended for transmittal to the governor for the Carriger solar project. Is there said motion? Councilman Pamplin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'll go ahead and just make that motion to approve Council Resolution number 360 and the draft site certification agreement as amended for transmittal to the governor for the Carriger solar project.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Stacy Brewster, second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brewster. Carriger Council, the motion has been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion on the action before you? Seeing or hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Did we capture the nay for the record? I thought I heard a nay.
Yes, you did.
I'm on screen, so if someone can tell who's saying that, I didn't know if it was Councilman Childs or Ryan.
Council Ryan, sorry.
Very well. The ayes carry the motion, and the FSEC Council for Carriger has adopted the motion to approve Council Resolution number 360 and the draft site certification agreement as amended for transmittal to the governor for the Carriger solar project. And I believe Council Pam.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, you spoke to this in your remarks prior to our vote. I just wanted to call out in the governor's letter in the dated August 22nd on page 5 in his closing paragraph. He requested that FSEC provide his office with information regarding its tribal consultation policies and procedures, and he's willing to work with FSEC to evaluate any changes in the manner in which the council engages with the tribes. And just thought, given the circumstances surrounding the governor's direction relative to this project and that invitation to work with him and his office, and your remarks, Mr. Chairman, I just hope that we do take advantage of that window. And if there's a role for council participation in those conversations, I'm more than happy to assist.
Thank you, Councilman Pamplin. I certainly welcome any member of the council's presence, on our various key issues with all of Washington tribes. And so certainly it's an item that is appropriate, knowing that there are some limitations on when the governor's office can be in touch directly with the council. So soon with today's action, hopefully that will pass and we'll have a more robust conversation as the governor requests. We certainly welcome that. I will note, as part of the coincidence of timing, that we will be, several of us, departing to go attend the Centennial Accord at the Cowlitz tribe in Southwest Washington for several days, actually, with the governor and the tribes of Washington. The Yakama Nation is not a signatory to the Centennial Accord, but I certainly believe that, they are present there in at least one or more ways, and we'll look forward to that direct engagement, hopefully, with the Yakama Nation, independent of this week's Centennial Accord, which again is the annual meeting between the governor and his executives and tribal leaders throughout Washington. So with
Chair
that,
Beckett, if I may.
you may. Director Bumpus.
Apologies, my dog is barking. I just wanted to note that there will be a cover letter accompanying the transmittal of the reconsideration packet back to Governor Ferguson. In the cover letter from the chair, we will provide some information about our policies with respect to tribal engagement and consultation. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thanks for that. And I certainly actually should also acknowledge and thank the governor's office and the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs, or GOIA as it's known, that supported FSEC in a tribal outreach meeting in early June, sent out to all tribes in Washington. And that's just, one meeting, an important one, but hopefully reflective of our ongoing commitment to full tribal engagement, and always looking for ways to clarify and improve that. And I will note, to the degree that whether individually, as is normally the case, or if there was reason to do it on a more regional basis, FSEC is always open for an active conversation around how to establish tribal consultation, memorandums of understanding with each tribe, so that we have as much clarity as to what the preferences are for any individual tribe as we engage with them on our projects once we've received those applications. I'd also like to note that I believe the staff presentation from today either is on the website or will soon be, and certainly I think worthy of inclusion in the communication back to the governor as well. So with that, any other closing comments from the council? Ms. Hoffmeyer, did you have one last item, or did I misread that?
I just wanted to indicate that Councilmember Pentland had raised his hand, but you saw that on your own, so.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, council, thank you very much for your added time today, and seeing no other hands raised for comments, I will adjourn today's meeting at 9:44 a.m. Thank you all very much.